Hello Internet, and welcome to the video that I never intended to make. Let me explain. In the week that sees the Blu-ray release of The Babadook in the UK, I was going to do a top 5 creepy books or cursed books, movies. And when I compiled my list, I realised that it was unfairly weighted towards H.P. Lovecraft's Necronomicon, either by association through the Evil Dead movies, or literally adaptations of Lovecraft's work and movies like Necronomicon. The only two movies that I could think of once I decided for intellectual rigour to disallow the Necronomicon were two really underrated movies in my opinion. In the Mouth of Madness by John Carpenter and I, Madman, 1989's forgotten slasher film. And to be fair, In the Mouth of Madness is a Lovecraft movie in all but name. So if I was going to be fair, I'd have to discount that one. So by default, this has become a video review of I, Madman, which coincidentally, I believe Scream Factory in the US has also released this week on Blu-ray. So there's your connection. It was all planned. I, Madman was directed by a guy called Tibor Takacs. Probably pronounced that wrong because there's an accent on the second A there. A really quick look at his IMDb page shows me that he has also directed a couple of Sabrina the Teenage Witch movies, which is in no way a bad thing in my book. I used to love Sabrina when I was younger. Yes, younger, but I'm much more mature now. It stars Jenny Wright, who I know more from her role as May in Near Dark, the vampire that is so alluring that our hero from that movie enters the world of vampirism in order to continue to be with her. Near Dark is an amazing movie. Everyone is pretty much universally amazing in that. Jenny Wright is much better in Near Dark than she is here in I, Madman. That's not necessarily saying much. No one particularly showers themselves with acting glory in this, apart from possibly Randall William Cook, who plays the killer, Malcolm Brand, in this movie. Randall William Cook is now a 3-time Oscar winner for his special effects work on the Lord of the Rings movies. He's also worked on The Gate, which was also directed by Tibor Takacs. He did some of the special effects work in Q the Winged Serpent. What the hell's that? Check out my review further down. Only 8 people have watched it. You could be the 9th. Now, not only did Randall William Cook make the, let's be honest here, fantastic practical makeup effects for this movie, he also persuaded Tibor, the director, to allow him to play the role of Malcolm Brand as well. And he's probably the best thing in it. Him and his special effects are probably the best thing in it. So I'm calling Randall William Cook I, Madman's MVP for his special effects work and his role as the killer. So this is a film about a spooky book, right? A cursed book. Jenny Wright plays Virginia, who works in a second-hand bookshop, and she loves pulpy books and she loves horror books. And she's at the start of the movie reading a pulpy horror book by a guy called Malcolm Brand called Much of Madness, More of Sin. And she becomes mildly obsessed with it, and slightly more mildly obsessed with tracking down the only other book he ever wrote, a book called I, Madman, which is rare and obscure, and which turns up one day in a brown package outside her door. The film plays around really nicely with what's real and what's not real, and you can kind of see bits of Wes Craven's New Nightmare in this. If I'm not stretching it too far. I mean, this film's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but it's got a place in my heart, and for sheer 80s weirdness, it's definitely worth a look. But it plays much more strongly towards the start of the film when Virginia's reading the book. The transitions between the real world and then her imagined world as she's reading the book are really actually quite nice and subtle. She's the protagonist in her own head, so Jenny Wright's playing the female in the book. The bad guy in Much of Madness, More of Sin turns out to be Charles Brand, because she's imagining what's going on in the book. The settings are essentially her apartment but redressed, so there's lots of instances of people coming to the same apartment door, and sometimes it's in the book and sometimes it's in the real world to come and see her, and sometimes there's a bleed through between both, and the way it plays with that is really quite nice. It gives the whole film a sort of like dreamlike vibe and a bit of a weirdness that I think if it were remade now, it would have to be in the hands of someone really special to get that, because I think although I think this is deserving of a remake, being that it's slightly flawed but a great idea and a movie that not many people really know about, I do worry that if it was remade, some of that insane 80s magic would get lost. What is the essence of that 80s magic? Some would say it was cocaine. I couldn't possibly comment. Now, the bad guy in this is either the character from I, Madman stepping out of the page and coming to life while she's reading the book, or it's actually Malcolm Brand himself, the author of the book, supposedly dead, who didn't die. And it doesn't matter either way. Because by the end of the film, written fiction and reality have broken down to such an extent that you're just watching a crazy movie. I will say this though, the character of Malcolm Brand is one of the unsung heroes of 80s slasher cinema, probably at the tail end of full-on prosthetic effects. Before we really meet him, no, beg your pardon, the first time we see him as he is, as he is in Virginia's imagination. You see how tricky this gets? But then in that story, because the woman he loves spurns him because she thinks he's ugly, he cuts his features off: nose, lips, ears, scalp. So next time we see him, he's actually covered like that for an awful lot of the movie, but he does pull it down, and there's some excellent prosthetic makeup to remove his nose, ears and lips. And then he proceeds to kill people to obtain improved features, a better nose, better lips, better ears, and he's very equal opportunities about it. He'll take hair and lips from women and nose and ears from guys. So his look evolves throughout the movie, as he is, then with everything removed, a little like Mason Verger in Hannibal, then with someone else's scalp sewed back, then with a new ear, then with a new nose, till we get his final look, which is a little Frankenstein's creature-esque, you would imagine. This film would make a really good double feature with the version of Phantom of the Opera that stars Robert Englund. A lot of similar themes, a scarred monster figure who gets facial parts from his victims to sew back onto himself, both obsessed with a woman, and both creative types. Malcolm Brand in this, a writer, and Eric Dressler in the Robert Englund Phantom of the Opera obviously writes music. He's the Phantom. The script itself could have been tightened up. I think it's got a great first act, then it starts to sag in the middle and kind of runs out of steam at the end as well. But for sheer 80s bonkersness, and one of the last hurrahs of full-on practical effects makeup, even with the throwback to stop motion, it's got a stop motion creature in it, which even watching it now, okay, that was never going to be CG in 1989, but I'd have possibly gone another way, more makeup and practical effects on a person or something like that. Anyway, watch it, see what you think. It's kind of endearing, actually, the stop motion jackal boy creature. So if you want something that is its own beast but has a little flavour of Freddy Krueger, a little flavour of the Phantom of the Opera, a little gore. I wonder whether it was cut or whether it was just intended to be a slightly more of a fairy tale fantasy feeling piece. Certainly could have got more gutsy and more gory. I actually like it for its restraint and its slower pace. Definitely check it out. It's a curate's egg. That's what I'd refer to it as. It's not horrible, it's not brilliant, but it's just goofy enough, and it's just the right side of playful. You kind of fall in love with it for all its faults. If you can think of any other movies about spooky books or cursed books that give rise to the story of the film, please let me know, because I can think of this, In the Mouth of Madness, Necronomicon, all the Evil Dead books, and some other sort of H.P. Lovecraft movies. There must be others out there, and maybe I can write my list, but not today.